So I'm going to show you what we're going to be working on today. The materials that you need are a piece of paper. If you don't have a if you have a Zentangle tile, use that. If not, you can just fold down a regular piece of paper into quarters. You'll need a pencil. Any pencil will do. And then I use a Pigma pen or my Micron, just something that writes nicely and smoothly. The other thing that I have is a tortillon, which is a kind of a rolled up piece of paper to use for blending. If you don't have one of those, you can just roll up a little piece of paper and use the tip of that for blending, or you can just not do the blending part at all. It's up to you what you want to do with the shading when we get to that part. So the Zentangle method was developed by Maria Thomas and Rick Roberts, and they're from Massachusetts. And Maria is a calligrapher, and Rick had spent some time as a monk, and he noticed that when Maria was doing her calligraphy and those repetitive motions, she kind of got into a meditative relaxation, and they wanted to be able to share that relaxation through art with other people, and they developed this method. So the first step is gratitude, and I'm just grateful to be able to have this technology and be together with you guys and do some Zentangle for a while. The next step is to take your pencil, and my tile is about 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And I'm going to go into the corner and put little dots in each of the 4 corners with my pencil. Now I'm going to make sure that my pencil lines are fairly dark so that everyone can see them. You just make your pencil lines as dark as you need to be able to see them yourself. Now I'm going to connect those dots along the outside. Now, these lines do not have to be straight. They can have a little wiggle in them. You can turn your paper however you want to make it easy to draw. And like I said, I'm doing my pencil lines kind of dark so that everyone can see them. So we've done our anchor points in the corners, and now we've done our border. We've kind of given ourselves a limited space to work in. We've developed our boundaries. So the next thing we're going to do is the part of the steps. It's called dropping a string. And when you're doing Zentangle on your own, your string can be any shape that you want. Here's an example of a string that I did. Doesn't have any tangles in it yet. And today's string is going to be kind of a Z shape. It's going to start here on this side, bounce up to here, down to the bottom, and bounce back over here to this side. So I'm going to go up and back down and then over there. It can be any version of this kind of a Z that you're interested in doing. I'm going to trade out my pencil for my pen right now. With Zentangle, there's no eraser because there's no mistakes. Whatever you do is going to be just fine. So I'm going to work in this section right here, and I'm going to do a tangle that's name is yincut. So to start with yincut, you need to do a grid, or just kind of like a checkerboard sort of a thing in that space. And I'm going to use this line right here. I'm going to go right over the top of that with my pen. That's going to be the beginning of my checkerboard. And then I'm going to draw a parallel line to that, and another parallel line to that, and another one. I'm just going to fill up that space with parallel lines. Now I want my other lines to go perpendicular to those. So because it's easier for me to draw from left to right, I'm going to turn my paper so that I can do a left to right, whatever is comfortable for you. So I'm just going to put some parallel lines going the other direction. And there they go. So I've got myself a grid. The next step with yincut is every place that there's an intersection, I'm going to fill it in with a little bit of ink to make a little dot right there on those intersecting lines. So with yincut, I'm going to pick this section of 4 of my squares. I'm going to show you the basic pattern in those 4 first, and then we're going to expand that out into others. So I'm going to pick one, one of my squares, and I'm going to do kind of an arced line that goes between the two dots right across the center diagonally. So it's going to go like this. An arced line on one side and an arced line on the other side. Then I'm going to do another arced line out toward the corner. So it's kind of like if there were a rice dropped in here, then it echoes those lines out the other side. And then just because of the way I draw, I'm going to turn my tile and do echoed lines out the other side. Okay, so that's one of those 4 that I said I was going to work with this pattern. I'm actually going to draw another set inside here, so it's just a little bit thinner. Kitty corner, I'm going to do another one, just like that. Start with my little bit of an arc. Echo out to the corner. Turn it if you need to. Do some more lines echoing out, kind of rounding off. Yeah, so now I have, like I said, I was going to work in those 4. Now I've got 2 of them that are coming off of this center dot. The other 2 are going to go the other way off of that center dot. I'm going to repeat this pattern. And so, for example, in this set of 4, that's the center line. So I'll come out this way. So that means that this one's going to go that way and that one's going to go that way. So now I've got 2 sets of 4 that are connected, and you can start to kind of see how the others are going to connect. So that's yincut. The next one we're going to do is called Nipa or Nipa, and it looks like this when we're done. So we've done yincut, and now we're going to do some Nipa. And how you get started with that is you just put some orbs, some circular shapes of varying sizes, scattered around, no particular place. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to draw a wiggly line, not crazy wiggly, but just kind of gently curving. And I'm going to come at a different angle than I used here because I want the patterns to really kind of separate from each other a little bit. And I'm going to start on my pencil line and I'm going to aim toward this other pencil line. Now, if I run into one of the circles, I'm going to stop and then start my wiggle line on the other side again. If I don't run into any circles, that's no big deal. So I'm going to do kind of a wavy line. And I happen to not run into any circles. But I'm going to go on both sides and just kind of do an echo or an aura of that line that I just made up. It's going to change a little bit. That's okay. So far, I haven't run into any of my circles. That's just accidental, it's not on purpose, but here I'm going to run into a circle and I'm going to stop my pen. I'm going to pick up on the other side and run into another circle. So every time I run into a circle, I'm going to stop my pen, pick it up, and start drawing on the other side. So there's one more step you can do with Nipa, just to add a little bit of drama to it. You can do it any direction you like. I tend to like to do it one direction and then do them all the same way. I'm going to add this extra bit of ink to the inside of all of my circles. So kind of do like a backwards crescent moon in there and then fill it in. I like the way these two kind of go together because they're both using like circles and curvy lines, but they have a very different feel to them. And I think they go together pretty nicely, which is why I put them together. But I don't want the rest of my design to be exactly the same. Using more of the same, I think it would have a very gray tone with similar amounts of ink being put down. So I'm going to do a different kind of pattern over here in this bigger space. It also starts out grid-like, but in a different way than we started yincut. And this one is called Huggins. Okay, so with Huggins, I'm going to draw a grid of dots. I kind of want my first few to line up with the dots that I got over there, just so that they'll connect visually. So I'm just putting dots down in a line, kind of line up with the ones that I had at the edge of the yincut. I'm going to continue that by putting another row of dots with similar spacing. I'm just going to keep filling in with dots. So I have like a grid pattern of dots that go out to that corner edge. We're going to be doing some curved lines that connect our dots, but they're kind of like going to go swing out, swing in, swing out. So kind of like the monkey going down the vine. We're going to curve out from the top of that one to the bottom of that one. And then we're going to curve the other way. See how that kind of swings from one side to the next? So we're going to connect the first two dots swinging to the left, and then the second two dots swinging to the right, and we're going to go down again, swing the other way. And then I'm going to imagine there's a dot down here, and I'm going to aim toward that swing and then stop when I get to the pencil line. Now we're going to do the next row, but this time we're going to swing the opposite direction. So if in this case, if we swung like a C here, we're going to do a backward C over here. Then we're going to do our C, so it kind of swings away from the line and then toward the line. On this next line, we're going to go the other way again, because we want these to be in pairs, either making parentheses that go like this, out and out, or we want them to go in and in. So this one would have an in one. This one would have an out one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my tile so that I can see my row of dots going the other direction. Okay, now this time I can see that I've got two, they're going rounded out. Well, I want this one to round in between. So then I'm going to swing back the other direction and round out, and then in, and then out, and then in, and then out. Okay. So this one, I can see that since those two are bowing out, I want the one connecting here to go in. So I'm going back and forth. And now that we've done all of these, that these two have kind of grid-like forms with them, we've got some rounded lines, we've got some circles. I'm going to balance this out with another tangle over here in the corner that's a little more organic, and it's called pokeberry. Pokeberry looks like this. So we've done yincut, we've done Nipa, we've done Huggins, now we're going to do pokeberry. So I'm going to bring my pokeberries in from the three corners and kind of have them meet into the middle with each other. And this is how pokeberry works. I'm going to start by with this one down here so you can see how to do each pokeberry. I'm going to draw a couple of short curved lines that are parallel to each other. They're going to look like a stem. And then I'm going to kind of do a little cap at the top of the stem that curves like an upside down smile. And now I'm going to start at the stem a little further below the cap there, and I'm going to draw an orb-like shape that comes up, around, and meets back down at the stem. So there's little spaces in between the pokeberries and the stems. I'm going to fill those little spaces in between the pokeberries and stems with ink so that the pokeberries are kind of sitting on a black background. So there's our basic Zentangle all done. Now we're going to go back in with our pencil and add some shading. It's going to add some three-dimensionality. Now I'm going to do something where I want the Nipa as an entire shape to feel like it's floating up above the rest of the shapes that are near it. So right along this pencil line, I'm going to put some graphite right over the top of my pokeberries, right outside the Nipa. And if you have a tortillon or a little piece of paper, or if you want to try your finger, just kind of blend that in. I'm going to do the same thing on the yincut side of the Nipa. Now I'm going to go over to the Huggins, and I'm going to bring some of this graphite in, and I'm going to emphasize that over and under by putting graphite inside all of the edges that are curved, so that, like if it's like a letter C, I'm putting the graphite on the inside of that letter C. Now, right along this edge, where the yincut meets the Huggins, I'm going to put graphite right along that whole edge. So now the yincut is going to look like it's floating above the Huggins. And there's something we can do with a little bit of shading for the yincut. We can add some graphite right in the center of those four that look like a flower. I'm going to put a little bit of graphite right around that center bit. So it's not on every circle, but it's on some of them. I'm going to use my tortillon to kind of rub it in and fade it out. And then the last thing I'm going to do is come over to my pokeberry, put just a little bit of graphite right in where under those cap lines. Emphasize the over and under. Okay, so the last step is to sign it. Pick a spot and put your initials in. There isn't a top, a bottom, a left, or a right, so just find a spot that feels comfortable. I kind of like this little guy right here. I'm going to stick my SM right in there. There it is.